You wake up, you scroll, you follow the routine. You smile when you're supposed to. You nod when it's expected. You say, I'm fine when you're falling apart. But stop for a moment. Whose life are you really living? Is it yours? Or just the version the world programmed you play? We live in cages, not made of bars or chains, but rules, roles, expectations, invisible instructions, handed to you before you could even speak. Be quiet. Be nice. Don't question. Fit in. Don't feel too much. Don't want too much. Don't be too you. And like a good machine, you learned the code. You followed it. You dressed it up as being responsible, mature, realistic. But deep down, you know you're not living. You're obeying. They told you who to be, what to want, what success means, what love should feel like, even how much of yourself you're allowed to express. And every time you try to step out of that mold, you felt the shame, the guilt, the terrifying fear of being rejected, judged, punished. So you backed off. You dimmed your light. You played it safe. And now you're here, alive, but not truly living, free but still chained. Because this is the truth no one told you. The deepest prisons are not outside of you. They're inside your own mind. Thoughts, beliefs, rules. On repeat, you say you're scared of failure. But really, you're terrified of your power. Because if you truly stepped into it, the entire fake world around you would crumble. And the voice in your head whispers, don't rock the boat. They won't love you if you change. You're too damaged to start over. Who do you think you are to want more? But what if that voice isn't your own? What if it was installed by parents, by teachers, by broken systems, by a world that profits from you staying small? You were trained to survive, not to be free. So now let me ask you, what would your life look like if you weren't afraid? What if the version of you you've been hiding, the raw, unfiltered, rebellious version, is the real you? What if everything that's wrong with you is exactly what would set you free? And what if you've been obeying a lie your whole life? Today, we are not here to sugarcoat. We're here to rip the mask off. This video will take you deep into the lies, the programming, the hidden chains, so that you can finally see you're not broken, you're not weak, you're just trapped. And now, it's time to break out. You weren't born afraid. You weren't born ashamed. You weren't born confused, guilty, or anxious. You were born free, curious, loud, alive. But then the programming began, not with violence, not with threats, but with silence, with looks, with phrases you heard over and over again. You're being too sensitive. Boys don't cry. Good girls don't get angry. Don't talk back. Why can't you be more like your brother? If you keep acting like this, no one will love you. You didn't question it. You couldn't. Your brain wasn't fully formed. You were absorbing the world like a sponge. Every word became a belief. Every punishment became a rule. Every rejection, a warning. You weren't taught to understand yourself. You were taught to control yourself. So what did you do? You split. You buried the parts of you that were too much. You shut down the rage. You silenced the grief. You put a smile over your shame. Because in a child's mind, love equals survival. And if being fully you risked that love, then you had to go. This is where the lie begins. That your worth is conditional. That who you are isn't enough. That love must be earned. That freedom is dangerous. And so the mask is born. You became the good version. The version who gets approval. The version who's easy to digest. And the real you locked them away. You got so good at being the right version that you forgot what it felt like to be real, to be messy, to be raw, to feel. Now, every time something deep inside tries to wake up, you shut it down. You scroll, you binge, you overthink, you please, you numb, you run. Because freedom terrifies the part of you still trying to be enough. Let's go deeper. You were trained to fear your own truth. They didn't have to chain you physically. They just had to make you believe the chains were necessary. That's how you became obedient, not just to people, but to patterns. You attract pain that feels familiar. You sabotage success when it gets too real. You chase validation like it's oxygen, because somewhere inside, you still believe you don't deserve more. You don't even notice the programming anymore, because it sounds like your voice. But it's not. It's the echo of a scared child, still trying to be loved by being less. But here's the twist. The world didn't just lie to you. It convinced you to lie to yourself. To say, I'm fine when you're dying inside. To say, it's not a big deal when it's eating you alive. To pretend it's okay when it never was. But you feel it in the silence, in the mirror, in the ache that never leaves. That haunting sense that something is off, that something is missing. It's not just in your head, it's in your story. A story that was written for you, not by you. And now, your real self is banging on the walls, asking, begging, let me out. This is not just a motivational video. This is a mirror, a confrontation, a door, and the only way out is through the lies, through the fear, through the pain you buried. Because someone once said your truth was too much. You've changed your clothes, your city, your job, your partner, but the pain feels the same. Different faces, same rejection, different days, same inner war, different goals, same sabotage. It's like life is on a loop, and you're stuck watching the same movie, bleeding from the same cuts, falling for the same lies. But why? Why does the past keep bleeding into your present? Why does the same heartbreak keep wearing new disguises? The answer is unsettling, because it's not them, it's you. More precisely, your programming. Every time you went through pain as a child, your brain made a rule. If I speak up, I'll be hurt. If I trust people, they'll leave. If I show my real self, I'll be rejected. These rules weren't logical. They were emotional, written by fear, signed by survival. And here's the terrifying part. Your brain follows those rules like gospel. Even when you're 30, 40, 50, the mind inside you is still operating on a blueprint written by a scared 7-year-old. Think about it. You want love, but you choose people who don't value you. You want peace, but your mind drags you back to chaos. You want freedom, but you sabotage it before it even starts. That's not weakness. That's wiring. You're not lazy. You're not broken. You're not cursed. You're trapped in a program that keeps running silently in the background, repeating the same emotional songs until your soul forgets how to dance. Even your emotions aren't fully yours. You feel anxious, not because the world is scary, but because your brain learned that calm is unsafe. You overthink, not because you're analytical, but because your childhood taught you that mistakes are deadly. You lash out or shut down, not because you're toxic, but because your nervous system is still reacting to ghosts from 20 years ago. And that's the most haunting part. You are reacting to things that are no longer happening. The boss isn't your father. The friend isn't your betrayer. The partner isn't your mother. But your mind doesn't know the difference. It feels a similar tone, a familiar rejection, a vibe that triggers the same script. And just like that, you become 10 years old again. Defensive, wounded, small. Let's pause. This isn't to blame you. This is to wake you. Because you can't heal what you don't see. And the truth is, you've been asleep, walking through life with a map that leads nowhere but back to pain. And the real prison is that it's comfortable. We chase the familiar, even if it hurts. We repeat patterns because we know the ending. We reject freedom because it's too unfamiliar. You don't stay stuck because you're weak. You stay stuck because your brain thinks it's safe. But now you know, and when you see the pattern, you hold the power to break it. This is the beginning of self-liberation, not by running faster, not by achieving more, but by breaking the loop you didn't know you were caught in. You think you know yourself. You can list your likes, your fears, your flaws, But have you ever questioned where those beliefs came from? Not what you believe, but why you believe it. That voice in your head that whispers, I'm not good enough. I mess things up. I don't deserve love. I'm always a problem. You think it's truth, but it's not. It's a script written by the wounded parts of you. The part that got yelled at when it was just scared. The part that got left behind when it needed holding. The part that was told to shut up, to toughen up, to grow up too soon. These beliefs, they didn't come from insight. They came from pain. They are not reflections of reality. They are survival mechanisms. When a child is hurt, they don't think, my parent is emotionally unavailable. They think, it's my fault. If I was better, this wouldn't happen. Maybe if I stop needing so much, they'll love me. That is where the core lies begin. Lies that become your identity. And you carry those lies like armor. You overachieve to feel worthy. You people please to avoid rejection. You stay silent to avoid conflict. You pretend to be okay, even when you're breaking inside. Because somewhere deep down, your subconscious still believes, if I show my real self, I'll be hurt again. That belief is a cage, and you've been living inside it for years. Even if the door has always been open. Let me ask you something raw. Have you ever apologized for crying? Felt guilty for asking for help? Believed you were too much for people? Then your mind is still repeating an old lie, a lie someone else taught you, and you've been whispering to yourself ever since. You've been punishing yourself for how you were shaped, not realizing you didn't build this prison alone. But now it's time to question it. What if too sensitive was actually deep empathy? What if too emotional was intense awareness? What if the things you were shamed for are actually your deepest strengths? The world didn't see it, so you couldn't either. But now you can, because here's the truth most never hear. You are not the story you were told. You are the author now, and you can rewrite it. This is where real freedom begins, not by adding more to your life, but by removing the lies that never belonged to you. You weren't born broken. You were born whole. It was the world that cracked you, and your mind that built masks to survive. But those masks, they're suffocating you now. And to breathe again, you have to remove them. Yes, it'll hurt, but behind that pain is power. You finally start to feel a little better. You get a new opportunity. Someone starts to care about you. You begin to feel hope. And then you ruin it. You push them away. You miss the deadline. You ghost a friend. You fall back into the habit you swore you left behind. And afterward, in the silence of your own shame, you ask, why did I do that? Let me answer that for you. Because a hidden saboteur inside you believes you don't deserve good things. And here's the terrifying part. This saboteur is you. It's not a demon. It's not bad luck. It's the part of your mind that was programmed to believe. Safety comes from staying small. Success means exposure. Love means danger. And even though consciously you crave peace, love, success, your subconscious has other plans. It believes chaos is safer because chaos is familiar. Let's go deeper. Imagine a child growing up in emotional storms, yelling silence, rejection, walking on eggshells. That child doesn't feel safe when things are calm, because calm always came before the next explosion. So they learn to distrust peace. Now that child grows up, looks like an adult on the outside, but their mind is still wired for turbulence. When things get calm, their nervous system panics. Something bad is coming. It's too quiet. I need to prepare for pain. So what happens? They create pain before pain finds them. They ruin the relationship. They sabotage the job. They start a fight out of nowhere because pain they control feels safer than pain that surprises them. That is the saboteur. It's not logical, but it's deeply psychological. And if you don't bring this saboteur into the light, it will continue running your life, silently, relentlessly, destroying what you build, all while whispering, "See, I told you it wouldn't last." But now you're starting to see it, and that's powerful, because once you see the pattern, you can interrupt it. You can say, "No, This isn't truth. This is trauma. This isn't intuition. This is programming. This isn't who I am. This is who I had to be to survive. The saboteur is not evil. It's scared. And fear, when left unchallenged, becomes destruction. But when you meet it with compassion, when you understand its roots, you don't just silence it, you heal it. Here's the paradox. You've spent your whole life trying to become better, but it's not better you needed to be. It's free. Free from the lies. Free from the fear. Free from the patterns that were never yours to carry. And to be free, you must face the part of yourself that keeps pulling you backward, because that part isn't your enemy. It's the child in you, still afraid of being hurt. Let's talk about something strange, something dark, something most people will never admit out loud. Suffering can feel safe. Wait, what? How can pain feel safe? It sounds insane, but your brain doesn't chase what's right. It chases what's familiar. If pain is all you've ever known, then comfort becomes terrifying. Joy feels fake. Peace feels suspicious. Imagine you've lived your whole life in a cold room. Suddenly, someone opens a door to a warm, beautiful garden, but the light hurts your eyes. The air feels too open. Your instincts scream, "Go back. It's not safe out here." So what do? You close the door, and you tell yourself the lie you've always believed. Maybe this cold is all I deserve. That's how emotional suffering becomes a home. Not because you enjoy it, but because your identity was built inside it. This is why healing is so hard. Not because you don't want it, but because healing means becoming someone you've never been before. And that is terrifying. To stop suffering is to risk disappointment. To believe in joy is to risk loss. To accept love is to risk abandonment. So your brain, built for survival, whispers, "Stay small, stay invisible, stay in the pain, you know." But here's what no one told you. Familiar pain is still pain. Predictable suffering is still suffering. And self-protection can become self-destruction. You are not being careful anymore. You are keeping yourself trapped because you fear what's on the other side of the door. Now think, how many opportunities have you turned down? Not because they weren't right, but because they felt too different? How many times have you stayed in toxic love because chaos felt like home? How many times have you rejected peace because silence felt like a setup? That's not choice. That's programming. And it's time to break it. You are not meant to suffer your whole life. You are not born to walk through fire. Just because someone handed you matches in childhood, you are allowed to feel good. You are allowed to relax. You are allowed to trust without checking for danger every 5 seconds. But you have to teach your nervous system that safety can exist in joy, not just in pain. And here's the truth. The comfort of suffering is a lie. It's not protecting you. It's preventing you from becoming the person you were always meant to be. You are not weak for wanting peace. You are not selfish for wanting more. You are not crazy for craving calm. You are simply ready to walk into the garden and finally leave the cold room behind. You've said it 1,000 times. I'll be happy once I get the job. Once I lose the weight. Once I find love. Once I finally forgive them. It's always someday. A silent promise you whisper to yourself when the pain is too loud. A fantasy that says, the life I want is out there somewhere. But here's the twist. Someday doesn't exist. There is no magic door waiting to open. No perfect version of you that will suddenly appear. No day on the calendar called finally healed. The mind loves to delay because delay feels safe. You're not saying no to your freedom. You're just saying not yet. But not yet becomes never, and never becomes your story. You don't chase your dreams. You don't leave the toxic job. You don't heal the wound. You don't speak your truth. And you convince yourself that you're just being practical. But you're not being practical. You're being afraid. Here's what's really happening. You're waiting to feel ready. But you don't realize readiness is a myth. No one ever feels fully ready to change. No one ever wakes up and thinks, yes, I am 100% emotionally prepared for my entire identity to collapse today. Real growth feels like fear. Real freedom feels like dying, because the version of you that was born in pain has to die for the real you to emerge. So here's the bitter truth. The version of you that keeps waiting for the perfect moment, that person is the reason you're still stuck. That voice in your head that says, you need to be more healed first. You need more time. You're not there yet. That's not your intuition. That's your inner saboteur. That's the old programming trying to survive. Because if you stop waiting, if you act now, the old version of you can't come along. And it knows that. Here's the paradox. You don't heal before you move. You heal because you move. You don't wait until you're brave. You do it scared. You don't wait until the fear disappears. You walk with it anyway, because there is no perfect time. There's only now, and now is terrifying, because it holds power. And power means responsibility. If you move now, you can't blame anyone anymore. And that's the real reason we wait. But if you keep waiting for someday, you will grow old with regret. You will look back and realize that the cage wasn't locked. It was just familiar. You'll see all the doors you never opened because fear told you to wait. So stop lying to yourself. Stop delaying your life. Stop worshiping a future that doesn't exist. Your freedom doesn't live in someday. It lives in this exact moment. The moment you decide you're done with waiting. Let's tell the truth no one wants to admit. Transformation is brutal, not beautiful, not peaceful, not soft. It's violent. It's messy. It's terrifying. Everyone wants to be new, but no one wants to become new, because becoming new means killing off who you used to be. And even if that version of you was built from trauma, it's still the only version you've ever known. Let's be honest. You've worn your wounds like armor. You've memorized your survival patterns. You've danced with pain so long, it's started to feel like home. And when someone offers you peace, you flinch because you don't know who you are. Without pain, here's the part no one tells you. Healing feels like dying. It's the death of every identity you built to protect yourself. It's letting go of the lies that kept you safe. It's stepping into a self you've never met before. And that self doesn't have the approval of your parents, doesn't seek validation from old friends, doesn't fit into the mold that made everyone else comfortable. That self is raw, unfamiliar, and terrifyingly free. Rebirth doesn't happen in the light. It happens in the darkness, in the quiet, in the breakdown, when everything in you is screaming to go back, but some small part of you whispers, "No, keep going, don't go back." That whisper is your new self, not yet strong, not yet certain, but present and real. It's the part of you that's tired of pretending, tired of hiding, tired of living a life that was never really yours. But hear this, you cannot rebirth yourself and stay comfortable. You cannot set yourself free and stay who you were. Freedom requires loss of identity, of relationships, of illusions, and that loss hurts. You will cry, you will shake, you will grieve the you that you thought was permanent. But that's the price of being born again. Think about a snake shedding its skin. It rubs against the ground, against stone, against anything sharp enough to help it break free. Because staying in that old skin would mean death. It's the same for you. Your old beliefs, too tight. Your old roles, too small. Your old story, already expired. And the more you cling to it, the more you suffocate the version of you that's trying to emerge. So yes, becoming new hurts. It burns. It breaks you. But it also builds you, piece by piece, truth by truth, breath by breath, until one day you open your eyes and you no longer recognize the person in the mirror, because for the first time ever, they're actually you. Let's unlock the final door, not the one to escape someone else, but the one that holds you hostage. It's called forgiveness, but not the version you've been taught. This isn't about letting them off the hook. It's not about pretending it didn't happen. It's not even about saying, "I'm okay," when you're not. No, Real forgiveness is something else entirely. It's not about them. It's about you. You see, your pain becomes a prison the moment you start guarding it. You rehearse the memory, replay the betrayal, sharpen the blade of anger, hoping it will protect you from ever being hurt again. But here's the twist. The pain doesn't punish them. It punishes you. While they moved on, you're still bleeding, still screaming in a room they no longer visit. Forgiveness is not saying, it was okay. It's saying, it happened, and I won't let it rule me anymore. It's not about erasing the past. It's about reclaiming your power from it. Because every time you hate them, they win again. Every time you hide because of what they said, they win again. Every time you choose fear over freedom, they win again. Real forgiveness is this. You stop handing your power to people who were never strong enough to handle your heart. You close the chapter, not to deny the story, but because you're ready to write something new. You forgive, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. And here's the most brutal truth of all. The hardest person to forgive is often yourself, not for being weak, but for not knowing better, for the things you allowed, for the boundaries you didn't set, for how long you stayed. You look in the mirror and think, why didn't I stop it? Why did I let them hurt me? Why wasn't I stronger? But listen closely. You did the best you could with the pain you were carrying and the knowledge you had. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's not surrender. It is a declaration of power. It's choosing to take the chains off, to walk out of the cell and say, I will not live one more day punishing myself for what I didn't know. Because now you do know. Now you are stronger. Now you have the tools. Now you get to choose something different. And it all begins with one act of rebellion. Letting go, not forgetting, not excusing, just releasing. You stop holding the knife and start holding yourself. This is forgiveness, not the end, but the key to your beginning. You've been living a script you didn't write, a story etched in childhood, shaped by pain, directed by others. A voice that wasn't yours told you who you were. You're not good enough. You're too much. You'll always be broken. And you believed it, not because it was true, but because it was all you knew. But now, the pen is in your hand, and the question becomes, what will you write? Because the mind, once programmed, is hard to rewire, but it's not impossible. Every belief can be questioned. Every pattern can be interrupted. Every trauma can be transformed into power. Here's where the real work begins. Not in fighting the past, but in reprogramming the present. You stop asking, why am I like this? And start asking, who do I want to become? That question changes everything. Start small. You wake up and choose intention instead of autopilot. You recognize a trigger and pause instead of reacting. You speak to yourself like someone worth listening to, because you are. Most people don't change because they don't believe they can. But belief is not something you wait for. It's something you build, like a muscle, like a habit, and it starts with identity. Say this out loud, not because it's magic, but because repetition reprograms reality. I am not my past. I am the creator of my future. I do not live in reaction. I live with direction. I don't beg for freedom. I build it one thought at a time. You see, your story isn't over. It was never over. It was paused, waiting for you to return, to reclaim your power, to rewrite the ending. No longer the victim, no longer the puppet, but the author, the narrator, the voice that says, this time I choose differently. And when fear whispers, you'll fail again. You'll say, maybe, but I'll rise faster. When shame growls, you're not enough, you'll say, watch me become more. When doubt says, you've never done this before, you'll say, exactly, that's why it matters. Because the old story served its purpose. It protected you. It taught you survival. But survival is not living. Now, you're ready to live, to love, to feel, to risk, to dream, not as the broken one, but as the one who rebuilt from the inside out. This is not self-help. This is self-liberation. You're not fixing yourself. You're uncovering yourself from the lies, from the fear, from the change you never asked for. So take the pen, write the next line, make it bold, make it true, because this story, it's yours now. Close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to finally see what's been hidden inside you all along. The war you've been fighting was never with the world. It was with your own mind. You thought freedom was somewhere outside, in a job, a person, a destination. But now you know, freedom is the moment you stop running from yourself. Think back to the wounds, the patterns, the lies that felt like truth. Now think forward to the person who refused to stay stuck, to the version of you who said, enough, to the soul inside who whispered, there has to be more than this. You listened, and because of that, you're not the same. The cage wasn't locked. It was familiar, and sometimes familiar pain feels safer than unknown peace. But you stepped out now, and with every step, your chains get lighter. You don't know your past, a home, and your future. You don't know the version of you that survived, the right to dictate who you become next. Let that version rest. Thank it, honor it, and then move forward without it. Because healing isn't about erasing the past. It's about no longer being owned by it. So if you ever forget who you are, remember this. You are not your wounds. You are not your fear. You are not what they said. You are not what you lost. You are what you chose to rise from. Let this be the new beginning. Not a perfect one. Not one without struggle. But one where you finally know you hold the key. You are the key. And the door was never really locked. Now, go live. Set yourself free again and again until freedom is no longer a place you visit, but the place you call home.